PintV installation, let's go. First of all, we're gonna use this tool and this tool to remove the fender delete or the fender. And then we are gonna flip the bolt over to remove all the screws holding down the front and rear bumper. Then we're gonna remove all the footpad screws to remove the rear footpad. And we flip the front footpad and jam this tool here to remove the front bumper. Then we're gonna remove all the screws holding down the rails to the boxes. Also, we're gonna remove the hub bolts. Do the same for the other side, and then we can remove this side of the rails. Then we're gonna unplug the motor and remove the other side. Then we're gonna use this tool and this tool to remove the front box lid. Remove all the screws and take it out like this. And we are going to use a T9 screwdriver to remove the front light bar. Then we use the Phillips screwdriver to remove all the screws holding down the ESC. Then we're going to remove all the cables that's on the ESC. Then we're going to remove the motor plug nuts and the footpad plug nuts. Please keep the footpad plug nuts as we are probably going to use it later. And then we can push it out like this. Wiggle and push. And then we're going to remove the white heat transfer pad on the back of the ESC as we are going to use it later. Then we're going to flip the rear boxes over. Then we're going to use this tool to remove all the screws holding down the box lid. Set it aside and flip it back over to remove the lid. Then we're gonna use the T9 screwdriver to remove the BMS cover. Then we pull it out a little bit so we can remove the balance cable and then the XT60. Please do it in such order, otherwise it will damage the BMS. And we lift the charging cable up like this, and then we remove the XT60. Then we remove the rear light bar and do this, and we're gonna install a purple light bar in the rear. Put the screw back and we tuck the wires away so it does not get into the way of the BMS. And we install the charging cable, and then the XT60 coming out of the battery, plug it into the BMS like this. Make sure it's snug and all the way to the bottom. And then in the last, we're gonna install this balance cable. Please do it in such order, otherwise it will damage the BMS. And we tuck the communication wires in the boxes and put back the BMS cover. And don't forget to install your box seals, rubber seal. Sometimes it get little bit too long to fit into this box. You can get a new one from the Flow Life, or you just can cut it short like what I have done here. And put back all the screws holding down the rear boxes. And then we're gonna take out the ESC and remove the nuts that's on the motor and footpad plug, and plug it in like this into the boxes. Tighten all the screws. If your PintV comes with the silver nuts, you can use the silver nuts. If it does not come with the silver nuts, you can use the one you just removed from your pint. And then we use the white heat transfer pad you removed from the pint ESC to install here on the boxes before you put on the red plate. And we use 3 short screws to hold on the red plate. It's gonna be a 3 screw packed in the kit, and it says short. Please use this kind of screws, otherwise it's too long. And then we remove the transparent plastic on the rear of the ESC so it gets better heat transfer. And we install 8 screws to hold on the ESC to the plate. Then we plug in the switch cable to the small light bar. Then we are going to use 2 long screws to install the smart light bar to the box. Then we're gonna install the front light bar using a cable like this. Plug it into the purple light bar and put it in the slots that's on the front end. And then we use the holder to hold it down. Don't forget to plug in this communication wire and the XT60 cable like this. Then we're gonna trim the front box lid a little bit because the ridge, the plastic ridge in the middle is getting into the way of the ESC. You're gonna cut it like the markings I'm showing here on the video using a tool like this. You can use a Dremel to Dremel this off. It's easier to just use a tool like this to cut it piece by piece. You can also bend it. You can also cut it just piece by piece like this. Take your time, take it slow. Cut it one at a time. Just slowly biting through this long ridge. And that's the result you should be getting. Just cut until the front box lid fits into the front box. Yep. And we peel off the sticker on the antenna to stick it on the plastic lid. Do not just stick this antenna to the metal box. It's not gonna work. It's gonna block all the signals. Then we plug in this antenna to the Bluetooth module here. And we put back the seals. Of course, you can get a new seal from TFL, or you can just cut yours short and put it back. And we just install the left rail first back to the boxes using 4 short screws. Do not over tighten this. You're very likely to damage the threads in the boxes. And we put back the hub bolts and tighten those down so we can flip the board over to install the motor plug. Make sure the motor plug is in the right direction when you put it back in. Do not just blindly jam it in there. It's gonna damage things, okay? Wiggle it in and hand tighten this nut. Do not use a tool like what I've done here. It's gonna damage the motor nuts. Just hand tighten those, will be alright. And put back the hub bolts. Also the 4 screws that's holding down the right side rail to the boxes. Then we can install the front foot pad. When you do it, make sure you see the arrow that's on top. And you can use the other hand to go down there, grab the plug and help guide it into the port. And just hand tighten the locking ring. And we put 2 short screws here to hold down the front foot pad. Then do the same for the rear foot pad. So we can flip the board over to install the front and rear bumper. Just give it a little bit of jam. Make sure all the screw holes align before you put in screws. That's 2 long screws and 4 short ones. And do the same for the rear. Plug it in. And 2 long screws here and here. And 2 short screws here and here. Tighten those up. We flip the board back on top so we can install your fender or your fender delete. I'm using the Flow Life fender, the original drop top fender. And then we turn on the board. You're gonna see the board booting up like this. And you're gonna hear a beep. And check the front and rear light. Make sure they all function. and then use your hand to activate the sensors on the table to try it before you ride it. As you can see, it's riding now. Go have fun.